The bell above the door jingled, a soft, almost hesitant sound that echoed through the dusty air of the old bookstore. Alexander lingered in the shadows, his fingers grazing the spines of books whose pages smelled of time, ink, and secrets. He often came here to escape the world, to be invisible among the stacks. Yet today, a strange warmth prickled at the edge of his calm. Perhaps it was the faint golden light of late afternoon spilling through the tall arched windows, or the distant hum of city life beyond the glass. The door opened and Lydia burst in like a flash of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She moved with a confident stride, hair catching the sunlight, eyes sharp and daring. Alexander felt a moment of dissonance, a sensation he had not experienced in years. Curiosity, intrigue, and something else, deeper and more dangerous. He didn't notice the briefcase slip from his hand until he heard footsteps approaching. Lydia was already near, bending slightly as she held out the forgotten object. "Looks like you left this behind," she said, her tone playful, her smile daring. Alexander's chest tightened. He took the briefcase with careful fingers, feeling an unusual warmth in her presence. He struggled for words, and finally he whispered, almost against his own will, "Thank you." Lydia tilted her head, studying him with the kind of curiosity that could unsettle even the most composed man. He felt it, a crack in his carefully constructed armor. Over the next few days, their lives began to intersect in subtle ways. A glance in the cafe, a chance meeting on the street, fleeting smiles exchanged. Alexander found himself thinking about her in ways he had not allowed himself to think about anyone for years. One evening, under a pale moon and streetlight shadows, he confessed his feelings. Lydia laughed at first, teasing him, daring him to be serious. But then, slowly, she realized that his heart was entirely hers. Their connection, delicate yet undeniable, began to grow, building layer upon layer of trust, passion, and quiet understanding. Autumn's chill had settled over the city, turning leaves into carpets of gold and amber. Alexander and Lydia walked side by side, the crunch of leaves beneath their feet a soft rhythm to their conversation. "Why are you always so cold?" Lydia asked suddenly, nudging him playfully with her elbow. "Don't you ever feel anything?" Alexander's gaze was steady, calm. "I feel," he said. "But I've learned that uncontrolled emotion can be dangerous." Lydia laughed, a sound like wind through autumn branches. "Dangerous or beautiful?" That evening, they sat beneath a street lamp, the city glowing softly around them. Alexander reached for her hand. The warmth of her skin, the defiance in her gaze, the way she leaned slightly into him, it was intoxicating. Their first kiss was quiet, but electric, a promise unspoken and yet entirely understood. The months that followed were filled with discovery. They explored hidden cafes, wandered misty streets, and shared evenings with books and music. Arguments flared, Lydia's fiery independence clashing with Alexander's controlled calm. But every reconciliation was sweeter, deeper. Their love became a dance of fire and shadow, each step both thrilling and terrifying. Even mundane moments became imbued with intimacy, cooking breakfast together, walking through markets, reading side by side. Each act became a thread in their shared tapestry. Alexander learned to laugh freely. Lydia learned the power of quiet observation. Together, they found a rhythm that belonged only to them. Life settled into a rhythm, a fragile harmony of routine and intimacy. Alexander and Lydia had found a home together, not just a physical space, but a sanctuary where their contrasting natures complemented each other. Alexander's calm precision balanced Lydia's fiery spontaneity. Their home smelled of old books, fresh coffee, and sometimes the faint scent of rain seeping through the windows. Yet beneath the calm, tensions simmered. Alexander often retreated into silence, observing the world and people around him with quiet intensity. Lydia, who thrived on connection and spontaneity, sometimes found his distance maddening. "You've been quiet all morning," she said one Sunday, brushing crumbs from the kitchen counter. "What are you thinking about?" He replied evenly, eyes focused on the light shifting across the floor. Lydia sighed, leaning against the counter. "You always say, 'Nothing,' but I know it's never nothing." He finally looked at her, and for a moment the mask slipped. "I think about the future," he admitted softly. "About us. About what we can become. About mistakes we might make." Lydia smiled, a little sadly. "I think about that too. But sometimes you just have to leap." And leap they did, not without fear, but together. They traveled, explored hidden corners of the city, spent long nights reading to one another, discussing philosophies, dreams, and what it meant to be human. Each shared moment strengthened their bond, teaching patience, empathy, and resilience. Years passed like gentle waves. They created rituals. Saturday mornings spent in cafes, evenings by the fireplace, small adventures that became sacred traditions. Alexander taught Lydia to appreciate silence, to find beauty in the subtle details of life, the play of sunlight on a page, the sound of distant rain, the rhythm of a heartbeat. Lydia taught him joy, unpredictability, and the exhilaration of surrendering to emotion. Even arguments became lessons. When Lydia challenged him, he learned vulnerability. When Alexander held firm, she learned patience. Together, they built a home not just of walls and furniture, but of understanding, trust, and intimacy. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Lydia rested her head on Alexander's shoulder. "Do you ever think about the years ahead?" she asked quietly. "All the time," he replied. "But I only see us together. That's enough." The winter came silently, blanketing the city in snow. On a morning that began like any other, life changed forever. Alexander's accident was sudden, merciless, leaving Lydia shattered. The world became gray, heavy, unbearable. Yet in her arms lay their child, a fragile extension of the man she had loved more than anything. She named him Ethan, after Alexander's favorite childhood hero, a reminder of courage and hope. In him, she saw the echo of Alexander's calm strength, the depth of his gaze, the quiet resilience she had always admired. Grief became her companion. Nights were long and silence stretched endlessly. Yet, through Ethan, Alexander's presence lingered. Every small movement, every question, every smile reminded her that he had not truly left. He lived on in their son. Motherhood transformed Lydia. Sleepless nights blurred into soft mornings, quiet breakfasts, and walks in the park. She spoke to Ethan about his father often, ensuring that Alexander's presence remained real and guiding. At times, the loneliness was crushing. Friends would ask if she had moved on, but she knew love could not be replaced. She discovered that grief could coexist with joy, that the heart could expand without forgetting, that legacy could be lived daily through memory and action. Years later, Daniel entered their lives. A friend of a friend. He was patient, kind, and respectful, never intruding, never trying to replace Alexander. At first, Lydia resisted. How could she allow someone new when her heart still ached with the past? Daniel didn't rush her. He made Ethan laugh, helped her with small tasks, and above all, understood the sacred space Alexander held in her heart. Slowly, Lydia realized that love was not a finite resource. It could exist in multiple forms: the first love, parental love, and gentle new love, without diminishing any of them. Ethan grew into a thoughtful, perceptive boy. He asked questions about his father often, hungry for stories that revealed the man Alexander had been. They visited the bookstore where it all began, wandered the city streets he had loved, and celebrated his father's legacy through small, meaningful rituals. Through Ethan, Lydia felt Alexander every day. The child's steady gaze, calm focus, and subtle strength reminded her that love endures beyond death, shaping those it touches.
As the years passed, Lydia balanced motherhood, her career, and life with Daniel. She never forgot Alexander, honoring his memory in subtle ways, telling stories to Ethan, visiting their favorite places, celebrating small anniversaries in private. One sunny afternoon, watching Ethan chase butterflies, Lydia felt Alexander in the breeze. Love had endured, transformed, grown, enriched by memory, hope, and life itself. She realized that life's beauty lies in the weaving of shadow and light, grief and joy, past and present. Years later, Lydia, Ethan, and Daniel walked hand in hand through a sunlit park. Ethan laughed freely, a perfect mixture of Alexander and Lydia. Lydia paused, eyes closed, feeling Alexander's presence in the warmth of the sun, in the soft rustle of leaves, and her son's radiant smile. Love had not ended. It had evolved, endured, and thrived. Alexander's legacy lived on in every heartbeat, every act of love, every memory nurtured carefully in Lydia's heart. She squeezed Ethan's hand and whispered a silent "thank you" to Alexander. Their story had transformed into something eternal, a tapestry of life, memory, and love that could never be undone.